Okay, so before we get started tonight, we'd just like to take a moment of silence for the passing of our Horsham Township Director of Finance, Richard Sable, who recently passed. He's been here how long, Bill?
15 years.
15 years, and he had a stroke a little while back, and unfortunately was not able to recover from that. So he has passed, and we'd just like to take a moment to reflect on that. Thank you very much.
If it's okay with council, I would like to recommend that when the family's ready, that to their choosing, that the township either donate a bench, park bench, or a tree in Rich's memory.
Will be an objection to that. Okay, so the first item is a hearing. Council will now hold a hearing on an ordinance which, if adopted, would amend the zoning ordinance to allow outdoor dining in the zoning districts where restaurants are permitted. Currently, outdoor dining is permitted only in the business park district. Proposed ordinance would allow outdoor dining subject to the restrictions designed to protect diners and surrounding neighborhoods. These protections include bollards around the dining area and limits to outdoor music in areas adjacent to residential districts. This hearing is your opportunity to express your opinion about the ordinance. I will ask our staff to provide a brief description of the ordinance, and council will take any public comment. And after that, we will vote on this later this evening. So we'll just start with you, Bill, if you want to give us a brief rundown of what's going on.
As council's aware, we've been working on this for a number of years, not working on it for a number of years, but it's been on our list to do for a number of years. And really what it does, it takes, when a existing restaurant or new restaurant wanted to have outdoor dining, they always had to go to the zoning hearing board. Outdoor dining was not permitted anywhere in the township. So what this ordinance will provide is certain districts, certain zoning districts in the township, and what we did, we crafted an ordinance. So what was happening at the zoning hearing board was granting most of the time an approval for variances for outdoor dining, and all the conditions were the same thing. What it could be like no music and no alcohol, or all the conditions were the same. So we crafted an ordinance that met what historically has been the conditions set by the zoning hearing board. So this way, if a restaurant or a new restaurant wants to have outdoor dining, and we know the world of restaurant, the industry has changed dramatically with the pandemic, that they do not, if they meet our new zoning ordinance, they will not have to go to the zoning hearing board. If they want to do something extra, or they don't want to follow by our zoning or conditions in the new ordinance, they would have to go to the zoning hearing board then. So that's a general thing. Mike Shinton, our Director of Codes and Community Planning, is attending this evening to provide a couple more details of the ordinance.
Good evening, everyone. So just as a brief overview, we did, I think, Mark, as you mentioned, we had outdoor dining permitted by right in the business park district. We had the forethought to include that as part of that ordinance. And so what we've really done is taken it out of the BPD exclusively. We've added it to the general provisions in sort of the same fashion. We've added a couple things we've learned as we've gone through and learned from our zoning hearing board cases. So we, just to highlight a couple of things on the regulations that haven't been mentioned yet, we are limiting the area of the outdoor dining to no more than 50% of the outdoor dining, or I'm sorry, the outdoor dining area is no larger than 50% of the indoor dining. You can't have a 100-foot shack that you make the food in and everybody eats outside. Like that's not the intent of the ordinance. We, already exists in the BPD, there's no amplified music or audio outdoors, so that would include, live bands kind of thing, or also televisions. You can't have the game blaring. And that's prohibited in outdoor dining areas adjacent to a residential district. So we have a few of them, but we did want to address it. Let's see. That's really the nuts and bolts of it. There's a lot of pages here because we've added it to the SC1 shopping center district, C2, and GC2 in addition to BPD. And really the large part of this ordinance is actually adding it in to each one of those sections. So that's why it's rather large, but the first and second pages give you really what you need. So happy to answer any questions if you had any.
So anything that falls outside of that, they would still need to go to the zoning hearing board. If they wanted more than 50%, or if they wanted TVs or live bands, they'd have to
Right.
still go to the zoning hearing board.
Right.
So this basically covers the basics of outdoor dining that we basically have done now for several years.
Right. Yep.
Also, any questions up here? Any public comment? Okay. So having heard everything, council will now close the hearing and will consider the adoption of the ordinance later this evening. So we're going to wait.
I don't think you have to wait.
I don't think anybody's here, so it doesn't matter.
It's an advertised meeting at 7 o'clock, so you can go ahead.
All right. So the next hearing is an ordinance which, if adopted, would adopt an ordinance regulating hotels in the township. The ordinance requires the hotel owners to keep records of the guests, requiring certain health and safety standards, and provides for inspections to determine compliance with the ordinance and the property maintenance and fire code. The ordinance also sets limits on the length of stay and number of occupants per room. This hearing, again, is your opportunity to express your opinion about the ordinance. I'll ask staff to provide a brief description, and then council will have comments and then public comment after that. Bill?
So as council is aware, when you introduce this ordinance, the purpose of it is to give our code enforcement department and police department some more tools in the toolbox. Our hotels are getting older. We have 8 hotels in Horsham, believe it or not, almost 1,000 hotel rooms. And 7 of the 8 hotels are of age. So we want to keep their standards up to the best of our ability to do what we can by law. So this ordinance helps give some enforcement to our code enforcement as well as our police department and fire marshal to work with the hotels. So that's really the nuts and bolts of it. We want to keep the quality of service and the quality of the hotels up in Horsham and not experience problems like some other hotels in other areas experience. So that's really what the ordinance does. It gives us a little bit more communication and hopefully to build a relationship with some of these hotels in town and their regional managers. And
Questions
Mike
up here?
Shinton is here
Oh, he's
still,
going to talk again?
and
All
he
right.
can give you more of a detailed of what the ordinance does for the hotels.
All right. And I'm back. So this is actually going to require that each hotel in the township obtain a license from the township, and there'll be a license fee that we'll put into the fee schedule probably for 2022. So they'll actually need a license to operate in the township. As you mentioned, they'll be inspected to our property maintenance and fire code. So like general health and housekeeping as well as life safety issues will be addressed, both on the part of the hotel and the occupant, to make sure that both of those parties are being safe. And I'll just briefly touch, we are also regulating the length of stay for a guest, as well as the number of people that can be in a room, that can be, registered to sleep in a room. We've accommodated, sometimes we have workers from out of town who have a 60 or 90-day assignment at an area business. As long as they're able to establish and prove to the hotel that they have a permanent residence elsewhere, then they can extend past 30 days. What we don't want to have happen is have guests establish the hotel as their permanent residence. It's best to be avoided. So that's really it. I'll take any questions if you have.
So how does this affect the extended stay hotels? Setting limits on, is that for everyone, or the extended stays get longer terms?
No, it's everybody. So let's say, God forbid your house, you had a fire at your house and you needed to stay at one of the extended stay hotels, and you were going to be out for 60, 90, 180 days, and you were going to stay there. your permanent residence is still going to be your house that was damaged, so you would be able to stay there for that term. So that's how we would accommodate those type.
Probably also worth noting that Bill sent
Closer to the mic, please.
Mr. Walker sent the ordinance to Workspace, who had some very productive comments, which we incorporated into the draft as well.
Anybody else?
Are there any, I know that OSHA regulates health and safety of some facilities. Is there any overlap with the inspection that you will be conducting?
I'm not terribly familiar with what that OSHA process looks like, but our property maintenance code is the same code we would, regular residential properties. There are both interior and exterior aspects to that. Usually, it all revolves around good maintenance. So working plumbing and
I did that.
working plumbing, heating, air conditioning, those types of things, which would obviously be on the hotel to provide. And then there's, so you can avoid issues with trash accumulation in a room, that would be on the occupant. So that's sort of the things we would be regulating.
And would the public make complaints to us that, for violations?
Sure, yeah, so, an occupant could make a complaint to us. We also do fairly regular inspections on these properties to grant them their license. But yeah, we take a direct complaint as well.
How long is their license?
It would be an annual license.
Is it annual? Okay. Any other questions?
And what's the enforcement for infractions?
So so we have two options, and hopefully I do this right, Mary. So we have just regular non-traffic citations through our property maintenance or fire codes through the district justice. We can also seek a court injunction if that's so wanted.
And Michael, it sounds like there was collaboration between the township and the 8 hotels, and I would imagine that the Horsham police were involved in those
Yes,
discussions to take care of some of their concerns.
yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any public comment? Okay. So the hearing is now closed, and council will consider that adoption later this evening as well. So now we'll call the regular meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Any questions or comments from the public? Being none, we need to review the zoning hearing board applications. We have 2 tonight.
Yes, sir. You have 2 residential ones. The first one is in our R3 zoning district. It's on 906 Rutledge Avenue, and the residents would like to build a new pool with concrete pool decking on the property. So it involves a impervious coverage variance, and they are permitted 20% in this zoning district. They currently have 18.6, and if they are allowed the variance from the zoning hearing board, their lot coverage, impervious coverage would go up to 22.4%, which is below that 23% council usually uses as a threshold.
Everybody good with that? Okay. Next.
The next one has to do with a fence. It's a corner lot on 237 West County Line Road. It's in our R4 zoning district. And as council knows, when you're dealing with corner lots, the side and the front are considered front yards. They're considered to have 2 front yards. So they're not allowed to put a fence that exceeds 4 feet. And you can see the blue outline. There we go. So they do have buffering here. You can see these large trees. This is Meeting House Road here. This is County Line Road. And this is the house we're talking about. The blue outline is where they want to put their fence. And you can see that they do have buffering. They're about 30 to 35 feet off of Meeting House Road. and they do have these large trees that can buffer the fence. So that's the variance that they would need to have that fence in the front yard.
Recommendation?
Staff is neutral.
Okay. Very good, that was easy. The next two are the motions for the outdoor dining ordinance and the hotel ordinance. Do we have motions?
I move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, amending the zoning ordinance to amend the definition of outdoor dining area and to amend the use regulations of the SC-1 and C-2, GC-2, and the BPD zoning districts to clarify where outdoor dining areas are permitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded, this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Ms. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is the ordinance for the hotels.
I move to introduce the ordinance as proposed, amending the Code of Ordinances to create a new article, Article 118, Hotels, Motels, and Inns, and to set forth therein regulations for the operation and maintenance of hotels, motels, inns, and other facilities which provide transient lodging and providing
Enforcement remedies and penalties.
Second.
Moved and seconded, again a roll call vote.
Mr. Gallagher, how do you vote? Ms. Hill Milborn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nesbitt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Ms. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next is to review a request for waiver of subdivision and land development for workspace.
So in your packet this evening, we have received a letter as well as plans from Workspace Property for 100 Lakeside Drive. I think, if not all of you, many of you have been to 100 Lakeside Drive as part of their health and wellness campus, part of the office park. So they would like to extend out a patio where the pond is. And it is a staff's recommendation is a waiver of land development because there already is a small patio there. They're extending it, but as council knows, with the municipal planning code, it's a non-residential use that they're improving, and that you as council can waive, do a waiver of land development, a minor land development, or a full land development. We think this, as they will present to you in a minute, what their plans for, it will be a benefit to the office park. So I will turn it over to Workspace folks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison Zaro. I'm with the firm of Riley, Riper, Holland, and Cala-Greco. With me this evening is Eric McHugh from Workspace and John Hunt, the civil engineer. As you've heard, Workspace is proposing a approximately 4,035 square foot patio that would extend from 100 Lakeside Drive. Stormwater management is proposed with it, so although we'd be asking for a waiver of the land development process, we would be meeting stormwater requirements. The engineer has submitted a plan to the township, which was reviewed initially by Gilmore before tonight's meeting. With that recommendation, and I'm happy to have Eric answer or sort of explain why they want to do this, other than the obvious. It's COVID, it's nice to have, some outdoor amenity space, so.
Yeah.
You step up to the mic, please.
Sure. Eric McHugh with Workspace Property Trust. We really want to take advantage of this outdoor dining ordinance now that it's so clearly clarified. But this is an amenity center. It's right at the middle of the business park at the end of our health and wellness campus, which has been successful lately. We see this as the next stage of evolving the business park, meeting the residents and the workers' demands there. We want to build this patio now and enjoy it before the weather gets too bad. We want to, that's part of the reason for the waiver of land development is so we can get the concrete poured. In case you haven't heard, materials are tough to come by, labor's tough to come by, so we want to get mobilized ASAP. We expect to have about 70 to 80 seats out here, ample Wi-Fi, occasional pop-up events with food trucks, but it's really just for residents from the new apartments and workers to congregate at. Big picture, we would like to pursue some sort of restaurant use for this building. It's been historically underutilized. It's been vacant for a long period of time. I think, as Bill said, most of you have seen it. We've converted it into a showroom. So over the course of the winter, we'll be looking for an operator and hope to come back with some sort of restaurant use. In addition to that, we're building out a fitness center in the middle of this building here. So there's an office tenant at the end, there'll be a fitness center in the middle, and then hopefully eventually the restaurant use on the end there. We do think the patio can stand alone without a restaurant, so that's why we're asking to move as quickly as possible.
So the patio area, if you pursue this restaurant idea, the patio area won't be more than 50%.
I picked that up, and yes, we'll be slightly more than half. I think it's about 4,000 square feet of space inside the building, and that's not set in stone. We have no plans for that yet, but yeah, there's more area inside the house.
Keep that in mind.
Or we'll get a variance, yeah. No rock and roll bands, no TVs, nothing like that.
Well, you are in an ideal location, because there's no, I just did the aerial,
Yep.
there's no, I can't find a nearby residential location at all, other than the apartments.
Right, they're connected by the power line trail, right in between the apartments and the site there, so we think there'll be a lot of circulation. You know, other residents from Horsham Township will be walking by there. Hopefully, we see dogs and all you guys out there at some point as well.
Any questions? Any other questions? Bill?
No, I don't think, when you talk about the office park and new ideas and creativity, I don't think what is shown here really makes, shows what it can, the opportunity. We know we have an aging office park. That's why we did the master site plan. We have to be creative. Workspace has to be creative. We know some companies are not coming back. So we need to retain the companies we have. We need to make the office park attractive to new companies. And this patio area with the pond feature and hopefully, as Eric said, a restaurant coming in the next 12 months, hopefully, will really help, in my opinion, really help make the office park even more attractive. The street lamps coming, that project that we have coming, the sidewalks coming in Prudential, and Whitmer making that walkability connection. So we've got to keep making, we have to keep making public improvements, but the private side, Workspace has to keep investing and making improvements to sustain the office park.
Eric, do you have any comments? You did review it?
We were working with their engineer before they ever submitted to make sure this was kind of teed up and ready to go for waiver land development. We have an August 19th letter, which doesn't really have any comments in there that are outside the ordinary, stormwater maintenance agreements, that kind of stuff, so good to go.
Very good. What's the next step? I'm sorry.
I had a question. So on the office park, when it comes across, the trail comes across the Drescher, do we have an internal, looking at a map, is there an internal trail that comes down to this location?
It does. The trail sort of stops being a trail at Prudential Road, which is just south of here on the other side of the pond. And then you're supposed to cross over to the sidewalk, and the trail runs down Whitmer Road and ends at Blair Mill Road. So it does go past.
There's not an internal trail that goes through the park?
There's a blacktop, yeah. Yeah, there's a blacktop trail that goes.
It ends right here?
Yep.
Okay. Might be something to think about in terms of marketing the trail in the future, when this is all done.
So, Bill, what's the next step?
Our solicitor will draft a resolution for your consideration at your next council meeting.
Okay. Sounds like you're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So, Bill, I understand that from our conversation earlier this week, we can no longer ask for additional business.
Yeah,
So you want to
Mary,
explain that real quick, and then I'll move on
Mary,
to...
I'll toss it to Mary in just a second, but, so, I don't know, probably for the last 40 years or longer, there's always been additional business, if any. As of August 31st, the General Assembly and the Governor have made amendments to the Sunshine Law, and this will be the last agenda that you will see additional business, if any, and I'll toss it to Mary to explain the new additions to the Sunshine Law.
Okay. The new sunshine law requires that...
Pull your mic to you.
Did you want me to turn it on too? The new amendments to the Sunshine Act require that any item that council is going to consider has to be published on an agenda on the website 72 hours in advance of the meeting. There are exceptions to that, but one of which is if a majority of, or like the quorum of council agree, but, and there's no financial component to it, or you're not entering into a contract, then you can add things to the agenda. But basically, for now, and if I haven't sent you a memo on this already, which I think I did, I'll resend it to you. But for now, the basic rule is additional business, the line additional business has to come off the agenda, and the agendas have to be published to the website 72 hours in advance with no changes.
So, after the last item on the agenda, from now on, I'm just going to ask for a motion to adjourn, so we just don't stare at each other waiting for me to hit the gavel, so.
As you know, it doesn't really affect us. I mean,
No.
the majority of the time, historically, there has been no additional business, and I'll throw in here and there like an update on the soccer turf field, which now we just had to put that on the agenda, that, that what we're going to talk about. If I'm going to give you an update on something, it has to be on the agenda.
So as a practice run, do I have a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
I motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Has been moved and second, meeting is adjourned.